Hi guys, I just wanted to talk about the must-have learning areas in your educational program. So when you're working at home, it can be hard to manage all these areas, but depending on your space, and I've seen some great photos of how people do this, so you can actually do it. So the first thing, I think we've got to have a couple of primary learning areas. So first of all, art and craft. Now you've got to decide, oh, that's on tech. Art and craft. Now you've got to decide, depending on your children's ages that are coming or the range of ages, particularly in family daycare, you have a range of ages. What does that art and craft look like? So ideally with children with expression, we want to provide this area at all times. That doesn't mean you have buckets of paint out or those sorts of things. You might decide just to keep an easel up there, and every day on that easel you might use paste one day. And a little tip, if you've got toddlers, just put a little bit of paste in at a time. Don't use big chunks because chances are it will end up on the floor. And one or two paintbrushes. You could use some cut up paper so that they can just glue and paste as they go, and then you keep an eye on it. Just write their name on the top. If they want to, you know, what did you make? Is there anything you want to tell me? Then you can say this was a dinosaur or whatever that is for them. So keep some kind of art and craft. If you have a group that the dynamics maybe don't work with art and craft, and you can get sometimes a group of children together that you know, you've during lunch periods or when you're busy, or you know, you're working with other children, you might take away any little paint pots or glue or anything like that and add like crayons to there, or pencils even, something that's not going to create too much havoc for you while you're preparing lunch or those sorts of things, because you are on your own. The other thing that I think you need is some kind of construction corner so that they can build. Now that can look like anything. So, and it doesn't have to be a corner, of course, but some kind of construction area where you've got blocks that they can put on top of each other. That's really good for mathematics and physics and all those sorts of things, you know, putting the big block first so that that doesn't topple too easily, all those sorts of things. So some kind of construction area. Again, if you have 2 or 3 different types of construction, then you can rotate that. So maybe one day or a week or 3 days, or depending on the group, you've got your wooden stuff there. Another day you might have cardboard boxes. Again, you might transfer that over to foam. So whilst you are doing lunches or those sorts of things while you're on your own, at least you know a block's not going to fall on somebody's head and those sorts of things. So you can make that construction corner safe. I think you also should have some kind of role or dramatic play area. Now that can be a range of dress ups. It could be a little kitchenette with pots and pans. Your role play in your dramatic area, that is, you can source all of that and a range of really good resources for children from your local op shop or secondhand store, those sorts of things. Bags, hats, shoes. Depending on the ages, you might have necklaces, you might get wedding dresses or suits or whatever that is for you. I tend to just, as I walk past, I have a little look and grab them. Sometimes that could be just a matter of decorating that area to give them some ideas. So you might want to put up some posters of anything you're talking about. Like if you're talking about emergency services, you might want to put that there. If you're talking about I don't know, roles in our community, you might want to put photos up there of say, like nursing staff or people, you know, people in shops or people of butchers or, you know, all those sorts of things. So role play and dramatic. And this learning area helps children really process their world, and they can ask questions, and you can see through their behaviour sometimes if they've got anything you need to address, or what they're interested in. So role play or dramatic play is another really interesting area that you can have. You need to also make sure that the whole environment is that they can pick and choose what they want to a degree. So you set the environment, so the environment does become your third teacher, so to speak. So, you know, you've got your program, you've got your curriculum, you've got whatever else you've got, and then the environment is set so that you can meet all those needs, and these can be chopped and changed for whatever you want. So also in here, I would put dolls. You don't have to have dolls all the time, but dolls teach children a lot about respect and caring and empathy, and we know now we don't just say that girls use dolls. You know, boys learn a lot from dolls, and I posted recently about some of the things that boys learn from dolls. So we really want to encourage boys getting in and playing with dolls and experiencing that. And even if it's just about, learning about body and feet and toes and eyes and, so there's a whole range of things that can be taught from using this. So for me, these are your primary areas, and then you need some kind of table activity where children can sit. So that would be, it could be your smaller Lego, or it could be Play-Doh, or puzzles. It can be drawing, it can be anything like that. So something that they can go and just sit at a table and do. Could be making books, it could be a reflective activity, what did you do today if the child's older, those sorts of things. So that's another activity there that I would have. And then you need some kind of quiet or book corner where children can remove themselves from the group if they want. So if they're feeling a little bit tired, or if they just want a little bit of space, or if they just want some time out, there's somewhere for them to go where they can relax on some cushions and they can have some books. Now again, you can manage this area. So if you've got a lot of younger children and they might be into tearing things or something like that, so often our books are at risk of getting torn by toddlers, and that's, that happens. That's part of what we do. So what you might do during those busy periods where you can't be with the children, you're still supervising obviously, but you might be preparing food, and if you don't have an assistant with you, those sorts of things, you could change that book corner, and in that period of the day you might just leave your hard copy books there, or you might take away your really good books and put them up high for now, just while you're doing what you're doing, those sorts of things. So with each of these areas, you can control them throughout the day, or prepare them throughout the day, change them throughout the day, so that you can manage the ebbs and flows of being the sole provider in many cases. So they're the 5 learning areas that we probably look for in family daycare, and try to keep your stimulation to a minimal. So if you're going to have a lot going on, make sure you've got calm music playing in the background, or no music playing in the background. Make sure your environment is not too overstimulated. So particularly with younger children, we don't want them exposed to too much and then exposed to all the colour, and there's colour on the floor, and there's colour on the walls, and there's posters, and there's signs, and sometimes that can be too stimulating for children. So if you've got that kind of environment and you've got children that are maybe becoming hyper or loud or those sorts of things, just recheck your environment, calm things down. You can always turn lights off. I used to whisper to children like this, and sometimes that would get their attention and calm things down. So little tips like that will really help you utilise your environment to make sure that you're meeting the children's needs, firstly from a developmental perspective, second from a behavioural perspective, thirdly from a learning perspective. So all of this joined together will help you create a really good, robust learning program for children, and particularly younger children. But yeah, so if you need any tips, I've got some other videos on this webpage. There's some links here to get in touch if you need anything, but this is a really good start for just thinking about what your program should look like, what are the kind of things you should have. Now, I always advocate for quality products, so things like, like your books, your blocks. Spend good money on your blocks, because if you're using them in an educational program as opposed to your own children, so your own children might use them for 12 months and then, you might give them to a cousin or whatever. But if you're using them and they're going through lots of children and they're getting lots of use, then you don't want to be replacing them all the time. And we talk about that refurbishment of our products and our resources in the costings video. So if that's interesting to you, go and have a look at that, and how you can move into planning to have some really good quality resources in there. And sometimes it's cheaper to buy bigger pots of paint or bottles of paint, and then you just disperse little bits at a time, as I said earlier. A big bottle of craft glue, that might last you for months, rather than going to, your Kmart or your Big W or whatever kind of store that is, and buying it, for $3 per thing. If you buy a big one, you might pay $8, $12, whatever that is, and then you can disperse that over as you go. Gather recycled materials. So if you are going to set up some kind of easel that's available to them, one day you might have dry leaves there that they can paste, one day you might have scrap paper, one day you might have magazine clippings, one day you might have cotton wool, so if you can link that in with your learning, and I know some of you do themes still, if you can link that in with your learning, that's always a really good way to do it. So if you use those 5 primary learning areas, you can get a lot of change in your program, and it gives you it gives the children a lot of stability. It gives you more control for those busy periods, so you can interchange some of this, preparing children for lunch, or, whatever that is for you. So just a tip, good luck, enjoy the rest of your day. See ya, bye.